Good to go. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Metro Inner Development Assessment Panel. I declare the meeting open at precisely 9:30 a.m. and acknowledge we're hosting this meeting on the traditional land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. We acknowledge the Aboriginal people as the traditional custodians of Western Australia, pay respect to elders past and present, and the ongoing connection between people, land, waters, and community. The meeting will be run in accordance with the DAP Standing Orders 2024 under the DAP Regulations 2011. The meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the DAP website in accordance with Regulation 42A of the DAP Regulations. Panel members may refer to technical devices throughout the meeting to assist them in considering the information before them. I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce the members that will be present today. My name is Dale Page. I'm the presiding member for today's meeting. In the room with me, to my left, I have Francesca Mafanti, Deputy Presiding Member. I have Luigi D'Alessandro, Specialist Member. For Part B, City of Nedlands, I have Commissioner David Caddy. And then online for Part B, City of Canning, we have Councillor Ben Kunza and Councillor Shane Sekon. Item 2, apologies. We have apologies today from Commissioner Sandry for the City of Nedlands item and from Mayor Patrick Hall for the City of Canning item. Members on leave of absence, there are nil. Item 4, noting of minutes. Minutes of all previous meetings are available on the DAP website for those who wish to see them. Moving on now to Part B of our agenda, City of Nedlands. Item 1 is declaration of due consideration. Panel members need to have considered all the documentation contained within Part B of the agenda and Part B related information. Could I please confirm by a show of hands that members have considered all information? Thank you. Item 2, disclosures of interest. Could I check with our local government members whether this application has been before you at a briefing or a meeting, Commissioner?
No, it hasn't. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No other disclosures of interest have been received to this point. Do any other members wish to make any declarations of interest in relation to this item?
No.
No? Excellent. Thank you. Moving on then to item 3, the Form 1 DAP application that we're considering today. Block 115, number 14, Tyrell Street, Nedlands, proposed 4 group dwellings, DAP number 25/02894. We have 2 presenters on this item today, Mr. Ken Perry speaking in support of the proposal and Carlo Famiano from CF Town Planning and Development speaking in support of the proposal. Presenters, I remind you that in accordance with our standing orders, your presentation is currently limited to 3 minutes. We've read your written documentation that you've provided, so you're encouraged to focus on the key points you'd like to get across within your designated 3 minutes. And I encourage you to actually stick to the matters that are relevant to today's agenda as well. Panel members will be invited to ask questions after your presentation. Mr. Perry, would you like to come forward? Your 3 minutes will start when you are ready.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you today. I noticed that the standing orders that you referred to start off by saying that people should be given the opportunity to provide the advice, information, and make a submission. My presentation is in the nature of providing advice, as well as providing questions which I believe need to be answered with respect to this particular. My intention in the presentation is to ensure as much as possible that you as decision makers take into account the current status of WA urban planning system. A lovely story of 2 fish swimming. One says the water's cold today, and the other one says, what's water? The water, of course, is the system in which they're swimming. And in my view, the water in which you, the decision makers, are swimming is a bit of a river flowing gently in one direction. And you need to be aware of that. I am the only public or community presented today. And I think that says something, given the importance of community involvement in planning matters that affect them. I'm gratified that one of the two commissioners who was approved has appeared today, and to deliver their thoughts today as part of the panel. Without doubt, they are both experts in the field. They are both members of the commissioner team, currently running Nedlands very well. And as I pointed out in my submission, they're not elected, but we have no choice. We have no ability to have community. So I'm the community. Now, there's no choice in that, and that's fine. The DRP process.
Mr. Perry, if I may just pause, I've paused your time. You only have 1 minute left. So if I were you, I'd get on to the matters relevant to this application.
Believe me, given my experiences here, I'm aware of that. The DRP process throws up a bunch of red marks for the proposal. The RAR dismisses these, but are they correct? You know, the State Design Review Panel on Chellingworth had less red marks than this one does. And coincidentally, Commissioner Caddy and Commissioner Sandy were both at that meeting. The other one is the time for substantial commencement of 2 years is too short. The proponent's property rights, one could consider them giving an indefinite approval. Once it's there, it's their property. They can choose to develop or they can choose to sell it. It doesn't matter, it's their property. There are no great development bonuses being sought here, so they could just come back and reapply. 4 years is the norm. 4 years is what should be applied. And I thank you for your time.
Spot on time. Thank you very much for that. Right. Stay there if you don't mind, Mr. Perry. There might be questions of you. Panel members, are there any questions of Mr. Perry?
Yes, thank you. For the presiding member. Mr. Perry, you were alluding to the fact that I was at the Chillingworth meeting. Is that correct?
No, the State Design Review Panel meeting.
The Chillingworth. I don't believe I was there.
You're in the minutes.
That must have been during the period that I chaired that particular.
No, you were chair of according to the minutes. We talked about that afterwards, but yeah, I can provide you the evidence.
Okay. The record of these minutes, I just want to make that clear. I just want to sort that out.
No, you were not a member of the committee of the DAP. You were involved in the State Design Review Panel, which had fewer red marks than this current Design Review Panel. But nevertheless, the State Design Review Panel, as you probably remember, rejected the Chillingworth proposal absolutely outright. Interesting, your co-commissioner, Sandry, was also present at that meeting as a director of Urbanista, presenting on behalf of the proponents, which is not unusual.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions, Commissioner? Any other questions from any other panel member? I have a question, Mr. Perry. I have a question. Don't run away. You're not going to get off that easy. I just wanted to check. So, read your submission, and I've heard what you've said in this meeting and others as well. I wanted to check your understanding of the role of the Design Review Panel. So, if you'll indulge me just for a second. My understanding is that the Design Review Panel, they're not consistent across local government. It's different membership. So you do have differences of technical specialist opinion. But specifically, the primary function of the panel is to provide advice on design that will assist the city in formulating a recommendation on the proposal. They don't necessarily, or they shouldn't necessarily be checking compliance with the planning framework. And the advice from the DRP is exactly that. It's advice, and the advice is one input into the assessment process. They're not a decision-making body, and nor does their advice have any statutory weight. Does that align with your understanding of what their role is?
Yes, it does. They are not a decision-making body. I'm not allowed to leave the house in the morning unless my dress is checked by my wife. Right. So I have no ability to say what is good and what is bad. The experts do that. They provide that advice. It's a value-added function. but it's an important function, and it assists, I believe, when you ask the proponents, them in formulating their plans that will be appropriate for the community in which they're going to be.
Sure.
So we are aligned, I think, in our understanding.
Good. And you did suggest that we check in with the city officers about that, and I certainly will ask them.
Yeah,
so thank you for your
please.
presentation.
Okay.
Yes, you can now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next presenter is Carlo Famiano of CF Town Planning and Development. Mr. Famiano, your 3 minutes starts when you are ready.
Good morning, panel members, and thank you for the opportunity to present. The proposed development is for 4 group dwellings on the subject site. The configuration of the development is with central driveway to avoid hard stands within front setbacks, and the garage level being at a lower level to remove any garage domination from the streetscape. The idea of the development stemmed from a previous development which client has done in Daglish, which was quite successful. But the main aim was to try and avoid going 3 stories to keep the form of the development down. So as you look at the development from the street, it provides the appearance of a 2-story development with the ugly parts of developments with garages being hidden below ground. So that's the design philosophy, or the reasons why we went down the road of this layout. I'd firstly like to thank the City of Nedlands for their assistance through this and cooperation. We did a lot of toing and froing, a lot of meetings, a lot of amended plans, and a lot of adjustments to try and get to where we are today. The application was advertised for public comment. There was 5 submissions received. We reviewed all of those submissions, made changes where possible, and respond to the others. So there was community involvement in this application. In regards to the DRP, yes, the DRP are an advisory committee, which Dale has already pointed out. We certainly didn't take their comments lightly. We did make a series of changes to the plans to better the design. Those changes including increasing front setbacks, pushing the parapet walls further back on the property, providing greater landscaping, putting more trees in, and allowing for greater solar access for the units. So we actually designed and put in solar skylights, Veluxes and those sorts of things to try and get better solar access into the unit. So we did, and I guess that's depicted on the progression of the 3 DRP meetings that I went through, that there were changes made. Obviously there's some elements of the development that the DRP were not favourable of, and if need be I can explain those. But I think the City of Nedlands have covered the base on those adequately. We have reviewed the conditions that have been recommended by the City of Nedlands. Certainly don't raise any issues with those, and certainly supported and welcomed their recommendation for approval for this application. Just looking at the planning framework, we're dealing with an area which is R60. It is going through a transitional period where a lot of those older character homes within the area on larger lots are being replaced by more dense development that reflects the R60 density on this lot. And as you move closer to Stirling Highway, it's R160.
Your time is up, Mr. Famiano. Can you bring it to a close?
Just to conclude, yeah, hopefully the panel sees merit in this application, and that's a recommendation from the city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of this presenter? Commissioner Caddy, do you have any?
Thank you. Through the presiding member, would it be of any benefit to increase the period of time for substantial commencement from 2 years to 4 years?
I'll just ask my client. You're going to start pretty much back away. Yeah, so it's going to commence fairly quickly. I think 2 years is the standard, and I don't think there's an issue.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any other questions from the applicant?
I just had one through the chair, which is condition 9 about increasing the windows of the dining room. I'll ask the officers as well, what is your understanding of that? Does that mean the whole wall is glass, or condition 9? Windows of the dining activity room free from visual obstruction.
I'm assuming that relates to its dining room and activity.
Yeah, so does that mean it's just one window instead of,
I think that's the large window that we're referring to, which is from the void from memory.
well, as long as we have
Yeah,
a
that's-
clear understanding of that.
Yeah, that's, we don't have an issue with that.
Well,
That's,
ask-
those windows
well,
were
ask
placed
the
in to
officers.
get solar access and outlook as well. So
Any other questions?
No, that's what I had.
Thank you, Mr. Famiano. No
Thank
further
you.
questions. You can take your
Thanks a lot.
seat. We are fortunate to have with us Dylan Reid and Bruce Thompson from the City of Nedlands today. Are there any questions any member would like to ask the officers? I have a few, but I'll hand to Commissioner Caddy first.
Thank you very much. Through the chair. Bruce, condition 2, all works indicated on the approved plan shall be wholly located within the lot boundaries of the subject site. I look at the plans, and it appears to me that there have been plots shown on the board. Also, that's not part of this approval.
yeah, that's essentially correct. That's absolutely the concept plan to say ultimately.
Okay, thank you, Dylan. So is it reasonable to assume that all the work that is indicated on the plan is actually within the lot boundary? Or is there any need for that condition?
That's just a standard condition that's based on. Essentially, it's a condition that helps ensure compliance and within structural boundary.
I had the same question about condition number 9, about the windows through the dining activity room. What is your understanding of that condition? What are you expecting the applicant to do? With one large window?
I'm sorry, I apologize, Mr. Isn't clear. It's also to be that complicated, that's it's just supposed to be the windows right now are perfectly obscured. And it's simply not supposed to be obscured. So that's something that
Okay,
we discussed. Yeah,
all right, so it's going from obscure to clear,
correct.
as opposed to getting bigger.
Yeah, no,
Any other questions?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Just like to have your comments in relation, I know you've cut it off in the report, but can you provide a comment in relation to particularly the concerns of the DRP and your consideration of those in forming the view that you have in the
Sorry, Mr. Thompson, if you could talk up a little bit. I think you've got 3 bods over here that we're hearing out. We probably need a little more help.
Dylan and I both attended. Yes, it's all good.
I have a few questions, if you don't mind. Is there a specific reason you included a validity period of 2 instead of 4 years? Sorry? Oh, is it? Okay, all right. The second question, you've recommended conditions requiring demolition and construction management plans, and your related advice note states these need to be in the manner and form provided by the City of Nedlands. How are applicants made aware of what you require in those plans? Do you have a template, or is the information published on your website? Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. So I'm asking that because I don't want there to be any misunderstanding what needs to go into it when you're trying to clear that condition. So you're pretty clear on what needs to go in those plans. Okay, great. Thank you. Condition 13 requires that external lighting should comply with the relevant Australian standard. Is there any room for interpretation of compliance with those standards, and or should we add some wording that compliance needs to be to your satisfaction?
Yes, I will add in word. And there's flexibility. This standard, I suppose, in the way.
Thank you. So there's performance solutions in that, so it's open to interpretation. So, okay, thank you. Answered my question. Your policy on sustainable design, does that policy vary any provisions of the ARCO?
Yes, but only for volunteer assessments.
Okay. Now, condition 19 requires the roof colour to be in accordance with the approved plans and to be installed to the satisfaction of the city. But doesn't this duplicate condition 8, which requires all colours and materials to be installed and maintained in accordance with the approved plans? I'm just understand why you've singled under the sustainable the roof colour, but isn't that already covered by condition 8?
Yes, that's what it is.
Okay. All right, that's all. Thank you from me. If there are no other questions from the local government officers, any last minute questions? No? All right, we will move to the report. In front of us, we have a report recommending approval for the application subject to conditions. I would like to seek a mover and seconder for that recommendation. Anyone like to move it? Thank you, Commissioner. Do I have a seconder for that recommendation? Thank you, Member Lafanti. Commissioner, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you very much. This is a fairly straightforward approval. Personally, I think the design suits the site. And as Carlo said during his presentation, the fact that it actually there's excavation, which means that there are less vehicles on the verge or close to the front of the property. I think that's a great outcome. I was going to foreshadow a motion that would increase the period of time for substantial commencement, but I'm satisfied that it is going to be commenced very shortly. Therefore, I can see no reason why it won't be substantially commenced within the 2 years. As I said earlier, I think it's a good outcome.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. I am so supportive of the proposal. I'm satisfied that it is consistent with the planning framework. I note the role of the DRP and the comments of the DRP, but in the context of the plans and the RAR that we have, I'm satisfied that the design is appropriate in its location and context. I commend the applicant for including essentially substantial excavation to create a design that is relative and respectful of the local area, particularly the 2-story scale generally, and I'm comfortable that that design is a very good outcome in terms of creating a functional dwelling as well as substantial spaces for the occupants. The design details that have been provided, both the street interface, including its setbacks and its upper level balconies, enhance the street and don't create unnecessary impacts on the neighbouring development. I'm also comfortable that the design incorporates substantial parking spaces on site, again improving the functionality of the development as well as managing impacts on the street. Overall, the development is appropriate and the minor variations are warranted and consistent with the planning framework. I support the proposal.
Thank you. Any other member wish to speak for or against it?
Yes, I'd like to speak for it. Without repeating everybody, I think it's consistent with the planning framework. Provides a good streetscape solution with cars at the front. I note the DRP's comments that have been addressed in my view. The local authorities comments for that. Subject is in transition, and I think this is a good outcome.
Thank you very much. I too support the application, though I would like to move a few amendments prior talking to the substantive motion. I would like to amend condition 1 to increase the validity period to 4 years instead of 2 years. And if I have a seconder, I will provide my reason. Thank you, seconded Member Lafanti. The reason I'm moving this is it might be standard practice for Nedlands to give 2 years, but Our DAP regulations actually talk about 4 years, so and it is standard practice to most other local governments. 4 years is not taking anything from the applicant. It's actually giving you a little bit of time and flexibility because stuff happens. You may have the best intentions to get going within the next 2 years, and life might get in the way, or unforeseen circumstances. So this simply allows an appropriate period of time for detailed design and construction, and it prevents you from having to go back through the planning approval process if you run out of time at the end of 2 years. So that is my reason. Does any other member wish to speak for or against this amendment?
No.
No. All right, let's vote on that amendment. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Second amendment, I'd like to amend condition 13 to add the words "to the satisfaction of the City of Nedlands" at the end of the condition. Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Thank you, Member Lafanti. The reason I'm moving this amendment is it ensures the installation, future replacement over time, and ongoing use of the lighting meets the requirements of the relevant Australian standard to the satisfaction of the City of Nedlands. The additional wording removes the potential for any disagreement or differences in opinion down the track about whether or not the standard is actually being met. The City of Nedlands will make that decision. So that's the reason to add those words. Does any other member wish to speak for or against this amendment? No? All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. And then it's just a tidy up, but I would like to delete condition 19, which requires the roof colour to be in accordance with the approved plans and to be installed to the satisfaction of the city, because it does duplicate the requirements of condition 8. Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Thank you, Commissioner Payne. The reason being simply it duplicates the requirements of condition 8, which requires all colours and materials to be installed and maintained in accordance with the approved plans, and singling out one aspect might diminish the visibility and importance of all the other colours and materials. So that's the reason, just to move that. Does any other member wish to speak for or against that amendment? No? Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. I'll revert to the substantive motion. Now, I'm happy to support the proposal. The areas of discretion we're being asked to consider are really minor, and the city has done very well, very good report, by the way, to outline how the design principles that are related to those elements have been satisfied. The form and scale of the development aligns with the changing character of the streetscape in the location and is not dissimilar to other developments that have been approved in close proximity to the site. I note the objections that were received during the consultation period, but in my view, the city has done a good job of appropriately and accurately addressing these in the responsible authority report. Further to Mr. Perry's concerns and the response we had to questions of the city officers, I note the design review panel's final response to the proposal. And personally, I share the views about the amenity of the common property between the dwellings and the starkness of the design of the facades that face that common area. But this in itself is not a reasonable or defensible issue to base any refusal of the application on, and nor would some of the other issues raised by the panel. I need to make it clear, just to give some context around my questioning earlier in the statements I'm about to make, I'm highly supportive of design review panels. I think applicants, local government officers and decision makers like this panel rely a lot on their independent design advice, and their advice assists us greatly in improving and enhancing the design of development proposals. But they are not a decision-making body, and nor does their advice have any statutory weight. Their advice is one input into the planning assessment and decision-making process, and from time to time, the assessors can and do disagree with the comments made by the panel, particularly if their comments touch on compliance with the planning framework and or raise issues which are beyond the role and scope of the panel. So it's ultimately up to the city to assess whether the 10 principles of State Planning Policy 7.0 have been met with the help of the design review panel. And it is up to us as the decision maker to decide whether we are happy to approve or not. In the case of this proposal, I'm of the view that the applicant and the city have appropriately addressed the 10 design principles that were not fully supported by the design review panel. noting that some concerns raised actually relate to design elements which meet the deemed to comply standards of the code. So that would make it really difficult if we were to refuse the application based on that advice alone. I do feel it's a pity the regulated tree on site will need to be removed, but I do note the impact it would have on overall site development potential if it were to be retained. And I also note the additional planting that will be undertaken on the site as part of the proposal. So happy to support on that basis. With that, I will revert to the mover. Commissioner Caddy, would you wish to close?
Thank you very much. Through the chair, I think for all the reasons that have been expressed and expressed very well by members of the panel, this is a very good outcome. This particular site fits well within the planning framework and contributes to the streetscape in Tyrrell Street.
Excellent. With that, I'm going to put the substantive motion as amended to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Moving on then to item 4, Form 2 DAP application for the City of Nedlands. There are none. Item 5, Section 1 SAT reconsiderations. None. With that, I thank Commissioner Caddy for your attendance and participation today. And we will then move to Part C that deals with the city.
Next time.
Okay. Right, moving on to Part C. Oh, there's an echo. Give us a minute while we sort that out. Moving on to Part C, City of Canning. And for this part of the agenda, I'd like to welcome Councillor Ben Cooley, Councillor Shen Sikon, local government DAP members from the City of Canning. Item 1, declaration of due consideration. Panel members need to have considered all the documentation contained within Part C of the agenda and the Part C related information. Could I please confirm by show of hands that members have considered all information? Councillor Sikon?
Yes, I have. I'm sorry, I'm just having some issues with my video.
Shall we hold on for a second while you try and resolve those?
It's showing us it's working, but I just can't seem to see my face.
There might be an issue with the top of your laptop if you just slide that bar.
I'm going to ask for help, but if you want to continue with the meeting, I'm just going to get IT to have a look at it for me.
All right, as long as you stay online and you answer verbally, that'll be great. Moving then on to item 2, just for the record, Councillor Sikon did raise her hand to show that she had considered all the information. Item 2, disclosures of interest. Could I check with our local government members whether this issue has been before you at a council briefing or council meeting?
Sorry, Chair. No, this has not been before council before.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kunza. No other disclosures of interest have been received to this point. Do any other members wish to make any declarations of interest in relation to this item?
No.
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Sikon, no,
No, thank you.
No, great. All right. Moving then on to item 3, Form 1 applications. We have 2 today for the City of Canning. The first one is Lot 147, number 1, Bungaree Road, Wilson, 8 multiple dwellings, DAP number 25/02872. We haven't received any requests for presentations on this item, but there was a written deputation received from Malcolm Pye, and that was circulated to you all. We do, however, have with us, and I'm not sure if they are visible, we have Amber Curry, Adam Stilitano, Troy Bosic, and Shaquille Makbul with us today from the City of Canning. Are there any questions any member would like to ask the local government officers? I might start with you, Councillor Kunze. Any questions of the officers?
No questions from me.
Thank you. Councillor Seacon, any questions of the local government officers?
No questions from me.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other members have questions of the officers? Yes, Member Lafanti.
I have a question. It relates to conditions. It relates to condition 20, and it refers to prior to occupation of development, all recommendations contained within the Transportation Noise Assessment Report prepared by Lloyd George shall be implemented in full. My question is there a particular reason why there's not an opportunity, for example, any modifications to be considered by the city? This condition appears to be relate to the document that no changes to the document that's been provided can occur. So is there any concern with the city if this was modified to add the words or any amendments to be to the satisfaction, or as amended to the satisfaction of the city?
Good morning, through Chair. Essentially, this is a standard condition that we apply on all DAs. And this seeks to confirm our position that we have a acoustic report as presented to us, and we are satisfied with it. The recommendations are the ones that we would like, want to see implemented, and but however, it's not that those things can't be negotiated further. However, at this stage, what has been presented to us, it has been accepted, has been reviewed by our environmental health service, and we're satisfied, and that's why the condition is worded in that manner.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, I don't have any.
No. I have a few questions if you don't mind. So condition 8 requires removal of redundant crossovers and reinstatement of the verge. You want that to occur prior to occupation?
What's your opinion?
Sorry, I missed that.
Madam Chair, yeah, this should occur prior to occupation, that's correct.
Thank you. Similarly, the requirements of condition 10 relating to the finish of boundary walls, does this also need to be completed prior to occupation?
Yes, Madam Chair, that's the expectation that all these works would be occurring before the inspection, and normally these sort of developments would require a build strata, and that's the time which occurs prior to occupation when we go and look at the whole sum of development, and those conditions are cleared prior to issuing of section 15C certification.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Once you have oops, there's an echo. Once you've received the ESD report that you reference in condition 15, how do you lock in or ensure adherence to the findings or recommendations of that report? Do you then check those elements as part of the building permit process?
Yes, that's the element I have been applying on a number of DAP conditions, and essentially that's correct. We would like that to present it, like it to be presented to us prior to building permit or at the time of building permit, and we'll go through and tick the boxes.
Okay, thank you. And I've asked this question before, but I'd like you to remind me, why do you duplicate condition 1 as an advice note?
Sorry, Madam Chair, we just lost a little bit of voice. Could I please ask you to repeat the question?
Sure. Is there any reason that you duplicate condition 1 as an advice note? So you've got condition 1 as condition 1, but then you also include it as an advice note. Is there any reason that you do that?
We won't have any problem for that advice note to be deleted. And if that's the case, we will adhere to that practice in the future DAP reports.
Okay, thank you. Just for my own curiosity, you advertised the proposal in the report. It says you advertised the proposal to the neighbours to the west of the site. Is there a reason you didn't refer it to the neighbours to the south?
And that's only reason for that is that the impact was only on the northern neighbour, western neighbour. They were impacted by the setbacks and also the visual sort of thing initially, which has been fixed later on. So there was no impact on the southern neighbour. So that's the reason we only advertised to the western one. Okay, thank you. Now, the applicant has pointed out that the configuration of the stores is not uncommon. And the city's design review panel have acknowledged this is common industry practice, but you've raised concern about this. Could you clarify for me why this is such an issue for you, please? So, Madam Chair, this is essentially, yes, DRP initially had some concerns raised, but then after the applicant presented their case and they said this is a common practice, that DRP did accept that. The city still have concerns in relation to the function of those car spaces, acknowledging that our courts may not provide that clear guidelines on that, but we have concerns given the site is so small and it's only 8 car parking spaces. So essentially to access the store, you still have to move the vehicle from its allocated parking space, unless the vehicle is not there and then you can access. But if the vehicle is parked there, you cannot access the store. So our concern is more from functionality and convenience point of view and accessibility to the store. That has remained, and we have just raised this. We have tried with the applicant. We went through the request for further information, and we sought design changes. We even perhaps pushed for internal stores for to be provided for each unit and each level. However, the applicant decided not to do that. So we could not recommend refusal or a deferral on the basis of that. However, this is the point we wanted to make, that it's probably the design could be improved. Thank you. You've answered my next question. I was going to ask why you're recommending approval if there is such an important issue for you, but you have answered that for me. I have no further questions for the officers. Does anyone else have anything else they'd like to ask the officers before we move to the report? No? Okay, let's move to the report then. We have a recommendation for approval of the application subject to a number of conditions. I will need to seek a mover and a seconder for that recommendation. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Member Lafanti. Does anyone wish to second that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Kunza. Member Lafanti, do you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you. I support this proposal. From my perspective, it is consistent with the planning framework, the planning scheme LPS 42, the residential, noting that the site is residential R80 zone under the restricted schedule, restricted uses Schedule C, and it's within the corridor, the Manning Road corridor. So multiple dwellings in this particular case are discretionary use. From my perspective, the nature and type of uses, land use, is appropriate in its locational context, being on the corner of Manning and Bundari Road. The 3-storey height is appropriate. It faces and orientates towards Manning Road, with the parking and the access way separating the buildings on the south. The design includes access points, pedestrian access points from both roads, creating great access to the site. Having been out on site, I do accept that the scale of this development is different than what is existing in the local area, and it's typically in that area adjoining the site, particularly down Bundari Road, is single level. However, the development is consistent with the framework, and it does support consideration of this increased density and provision of a mix of housing types in that particular location. Whilst the DRP has sought some refinements, from my perspective, the design, its form, building articulation and its configuration are consistent with the ARCO provisions and provide, as I've already said, a suitable interface to the lower residential dwellings. I don't have the same level of concern about the location and the configuration and design of the stores. From my perspective, I think they work well and are appropriate in that local context. The ground floor boundary single parapet wall to the west is appropriate, and I have no issues raised with that. I do note that there was a submission concern regarding setbacks, the balcony of the street and to the boundary walls, and I'm satisfied that they have appropriately been addressed through the grant and are generally compliant with the ARCO provisions. Likewise, I'm comfortable with the vehicle access off Bungari Road. Obviously, you can't access that site off Manning. On-site provisions meet the ARCO, and I note that there is a provision off-site of 2 visitor parking bays. I am comfortable that the proposal in this form is compatible and consistent with the visions and objectives of LPS 42.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kunze, seconder, do you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I support the development, the application. I think it's a relevant, straightforward application. Whilst the design might be a little unique, it maximises the site and provides a bit more densification than we would otherwise get. It's consistent with the planning framework, and I feel as though the issues have been dealt with by the DRP and also with the City Office conditions, whilst I recognise we might have some minor modifications going forward. And I'm also pleased to see condition 21 with respect to potential issues. Whilst transport corridors, main areas like Manning Highway enable this sort of densification, it should be recognised that there might be potential issues going forward. And so I support these sorts of conditions to ensure that any issues in the future, there's no complaints or anything. So I support what's been put forward and look forward to further contribution from the other speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kunze. Does any other member wish to speak for or against the recommendation? Councillor Seacon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also support the application. This proposal provides much needed housing diversity in Wilson, close to Curtin University, Canning College and high frequency public transport. It supports the city's vision for infill and more affordable low maintenance housing. This will also encourage residents to travel using public transportation and active travelling. With some of the refinements and conditions put in place, this project can ultimately contribute to a more livable and resilient neighbourhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Any other comments?
Yes, I'd like to, through the chair, I'd like to support this application. In my view, it's consistent with the planning scheme and with the appropriate use of discretion for residential. I note the comments of the DRP and the council about the storerooms. However, I accept that the storerooms are compliant in my view, and it is an industry standard. There are some minor variations which I think have been dealt with. It's an R80 area, and I think it's a good design outcome for this site. So on that basis, I'll be supporting it.
Thank you very much. Very briefly, I will also support the recommendation for approval. I do, however, seek to move a few amendments before I speak to the substantive motion. I'd like to amend condition 8, which requires removal of redundant crossovers and reinstatement of the verge, to add the words prior to occupation at the beginning of the condition. Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Thank you, Member Lafanti. The reason I'm seeking to add that wording is it makes it very clear when the actions need to be completed and gives the city a mechanism to ensure compliance with the condition. Most of the time, this is not an issue because, as the officer says, this gets dealt with prior to occupancy anyway. But there can be instances where there's confusion and debate or discrepancy about when this needs to occur. So I think it's important to make it absolutely clear in the condition when the city expects this to happen. Does any other member wish to speak for or against that amendment?
No.
No? All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. I'd like to similarly amend condition 10, which relates to the finish of the boundary wall, to add the words prior to occupation at the beginning of the condition. Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Thank you, Member Lafanti. Actions need to be completed, provides the city with a mechanism to ensure compliance with the condition. Does any other member wish to speak for or against that amendment? No? All those in favour of the amendment? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And lastly, while it is inconsequential, and I do acknowledge that, I would like to delete advice note 1 as it duplicates condition 1. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Member Lafanti. As I said, it is inconsequential in the bigger scheme of things. However, when we start to load our decision documents with unnecessary conditions, unnecessary advice notes, it can become unwieldy. So this is simply a tidy up. Does any other member wish to speak for or against that amendment? No. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Happy to support the proposal, echoing the sentiment of Councillor Seacon. It provides much needed accommodation in an area close to employment, education and shopping facilities, also located on a high frequency bus route, and it's therefore very well suited to a medium density development proposal. The proposal meets the objectives of the residential zone, and where this panel's discretion is sought against the acceptable outcomes of the codes, the areas of discretion are minor, and satisfaction of the relevant element objectives have been well justified in the city's responsible authority report. The proposal was largely supported by the design review panel, and the remaining issues for consideration by the panel have either been responded to really well through the responsible authority report or have been included as conditions of approval. Transport impact statement and car parking assessment shows that adequate parking is being provided and that any traffic generated by the proposal can be accommodated within the surrounding road network. So that ticks the boxes for me. Member Lafanti,
Nothing further to add to those comments.
nothing further, great. With that, I will put the substantive motion forward for a vote as amended. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. With that, we move on to our second Form 1 DAP application for the City of Canning on our agenda today. Lot 800, number 1697 Oak Street, Cannington, 3-storey commercial development, DAP number 24/02827. We have one presentation on this item today. I think we have Peter Merger online. Hi, Peter, can you hear us? We can't hear you yet. Peter, we can't hear you.
speaker, it's Ashley. If you go down to the left-hand corner where it says audio and there's a little arrow, if you click on that and change your microphone settings, that might assist.
Panel members, if you could just bear with us for a few minutes while we resolve Mr. Merger's technical issue, that would be appreciated. Thank you. It's happened to all of us before, no doubt, so we understand.
Can we try now? Yeah. Yeah.
We can hear you now, Peter.
I can hear you now.
We just can't see you.
Okay, 1 second. Here we go. Can you see me and hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Awesome.
All right, well, welcome to
Sorry
the
about
meeting. That's all good. Welcome to the meeting. You've done this before, so you understand that your presentation is limited to 3 minutes, and we've already read what you have submitted. So your 3 minutes starts when you are ready.
All right, thank you. And again, apologies for that delay. Good morning. I'm Peter Merger from Urbanistic Town Planning, and I'm the applicant for 169 Seven Oak Street in Paddington. I would like to thank the city for their support of the proposal and the recommendation to approve the development. The application has been subject to a long assessment process. We've submitted, it was last year that the application was initially submitted. We've gone through a lot of amended plans and revisions, including 2 design review panel presentations to get to where we are today. So thank you to the city and also for the patience of our client, Anu, and Salman, our project architect, who's no doubt listening to this. It's been a long process, so it's good to get here with the recommendation of approval. So the application proposes a 3-story commercial dwelling, a development on the corner of 7 Oak Street and Stockman Way, which is comprised of 2 retail tenancies on the ground floor and 2 offices on the 1st and 2nd floors. Parking for a total of 16 vehicles is provided at the rear of the development, with access taken from the right of way that connects to Stockman Way. Our initial plan proposed vehicle access from Stockman Way itself, off the secondary street, but that plan was revised and advice from the city's engineers, which allowed us to retain the verge tree and also provide additional landscaping and 2 trees along Stockman Way to improve that interface. The revised car park, providing sort of access from the rear, it allows for better maneuverability and we'll upgrade the right of way. I think there's a condition of approval as well. So we've also been able to include some EV charging bays and just upgrade the general landscaping and as well. So
it is an improved, I guess, car park with access taken off the right of way. With respect to the design of the view panel, there was in the two meetings that we had, there was discussion about the facade and improving that. There was work on the awnings and the materiality, and also bringing the building to the boundary. It was offset by 1 metre off the boundary initially. We've done that. It went out for advertising. We received one objection, but we dealt with that through the RFI process. Ultimately, the design is a landmark site, and we try to deal with that and provide some articulation and interest along both the streetscapes, both along Stockman Way and 7 Oak Street. It is located in an area where I guess it'll provide employment opportunities and service to the community. There is no residential, obviously, but there is enough residential in the area, and I think that the commercial aspect of this and the retail on the ground floor will be of benefit to I guess the overall sort of planning and growth of the Kennington area.
Thanks. Your 3 minutes is up, Mr. Merger. Can I ask you to draw it to a close?
Yeah. We've got no issues with the conditions of approval, although there are many that we've gone through those, and there are no real issues with respect to the conditions. We're happy with that. Again, thank you to the city. Thank you for your patience earlier on, and happy to take on any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much. Does any member have any questions for Mr. Merger? Do our local government members online have any questions?
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Seacon, any questions?
No, thank you, Chair.
Any members have questions for Mr. Merger? No. Ms. Merger, I have a quick question, and I'm going to ask you just to speak up a bit when you respond, because it is a little fuzzy when we are listening to you at the minute. You did state in your submission requesting a deputation that the conditions are onerous and will be difficult to clear, but that you accept them. Can you explain which conditions, in your view, will be difficult to clear?
What I meant by that, Chair, was that there's a lot of them. So the difficulty will come in the number of conditions that you have to clear. So not so much the actual wording or the clearing them. There's just a lot there to sort of consider and clear through the building permit process.
Sure. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you for that presentation. We still have our city officers with us for questions. Do we have any questions of the city officers on this application? Councillors online, do you have any questions? No? Members in the room, any questions of the officers? Member Lafanti.
Thank you. My questions are similar on both condition 24 and 25. 24, I'm assuming, is the timeframe is prior to occupation. There's no timeline. These are to be dealt with. And the second part of that question is similar to the previous question, is that the wording of this condition don't allow for any minor modifications to the provisions to be considered by the city, which would potentially imply that any changes to that specific plan as written in these conditions can't be changed without coming back potentially or a further application. Is that the intention for both of those conditions, 24 and 25? And do you have any objection to adding additional words to both of those conditions, which would be labelling an amendment to be considered by the city?
Through Madam Chair, in terms of condition 24, because waste management plans are only implemented at the time the occupation has occurred, and they are ongoing commitment. So essentially those are, the city would consider them not to be fixed. If there need to be minor changes here and there, the applicant can come to us and seek amendments to be done, and if the city agrees, those could happen. So it's something that we keep the condition 24 in the manner it is, because it's an ongoing commitment, happens when the buildings are generally occupied, and it's on, as I said, it's an ongoing commitment. In terms of noise management condition, I mean, based on the information they have provided, I would reiterate my answer as I've done previously. Based on the information they have provided, those that was considered to be sufficient, and we have applied the condition in that manner. But if something changes, I consider we do have the delegation from DAPS to consider any minor changes to those recommendation or implementation of those in consultation with our internal environmental health services. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much really, I mean, we can be flexible in those conditions, but based on the information provided to us, we see this to be the best way of dealing with it.
Thank you. That's my question.
Any other questions?
Not at this juncture.
A few questions from me, please. So in relation to the requested open space contribution mentioned in condition 3, why is that required this application and not the previous one?
So, Madam Chair, we have a guided development scheme in the area, which deals with properties mainly between Albany Highway and up to the railway tracks and Bentley Hospital. And on this side, we have the Wharf Street. So that guided development scheme has contribution that is applicable to all properties. Some properties would have to contribute land where it's indicated on the plan. Others provide cash in lieu. So this property is one of those, and that's why we have applied the condition.
Okay. Thank you. And then I'm trying to understand why you need condition 10 relating to bike parking when condition 9 seems to set out the requirements for bike parking in some detail.
Do you want to provide that? Or? Sorry, which one?
9 and 10.
So, Madam Chair, we can provide answer to that. They have on the plans, applicant has shown bicycle parking in the road reserve. And we want to ensure that those bike parking bays, whilst the number is acceptable and everything, and we see that there is space on site for those bays to be provided, we just want to ensure that those bays are actually located on the site rather than in the verge.
Okay. Okay. All right. Condition 11, again, similar to the previous application, requires removal of redundant crossovers, etc. Again, prior to occupation?
Madam Chair, no problem with that. As for the last application or the recommendation, you have made the amendment. The city has no problem with that.
Okay, and I guess similarly, the requirements of the condition 13 relating to boundary wall, same as the previous application. Right to occupation?
Yes,
yeah, okay. Then the condition you applied to the previous application and this one in relation to colours, materials and finishes, they're actually quite different conditions. So the condition for the previous application was more detailed and more specific. Is there a reason for using two different conditions to achieve the same outcome on the different applications?
The reason for the different condition is the level we have been satisfied that the materiality and color scheme and things like that have been essentially addressed through the DRP process, where we are still of the opinion that we would like the applicant to provide more details than we have applied this condition. We just see wanting a little bit more detail in relation to where we don't have previously been satisfied in that aspect.
Okay, so you're saying with the previous application you were less satisfied, that's why the condition was more expansive, and this one you are more satisfied and that's why the condition is quite high level.
Yes, Madam Chair, the DRP was very clearly satisfied with the color palettes and the scheme and the materials used, and essentially the applicant has gone to the length of basically adopting the recommendation of the DRP in this case, and they have changed the materials and the pillars. So this one, the city is more satisfied with it.
Okay. And then last question, condition 28 relates to submission of an updated landscape plan. And I understand it's probably implied in your view, but there's no mention in the condition about implementation of that landscaping plan and when this needs to occur. Is that intentional?
Madam Chair, this is essentially prior to occupation stage as well. So with the rest of the landscaping, it's expected that the verge landscaping will be, provided prior to occupation.
Okay. Thank you for that. No further questions from me. With that, unless there are any further questions of the city officers, we will move to the report. You have a report in front of you for recommendation for approval of the application, subject to a number of conditions and advice notes. I will need to seek a mover and seconder for that recommendation. Does anyone wish to move the recommendation? Councillor Kunza, thank you. Does anyone wish to second it? Thank you, Councillor Seacon. Councillor Kunza, as mover, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, I support the application. I appreciate and feel comfortable with the conditions placed by city officers to deal with the outstanding issues, and I'm comfortable that they will be dealt with. I take great comfort, not only looking at the design myself, but in reading the officers' commentary, that not only does the design considered suitable for the area, but the fact that it will deliver a good precedence for the area. The Queen's Park Local Structure Plan, this precinct is an area that we've been, as the City of Canning, have been looking at for quite some time in uplifting the area. And it's great to see this landmark site receive such a great designed building. And I hope that it kickstarts future similar development in the future. I have nothing further to say other than I compliment those who have designed this building and those who have provided input in getting to where we are today.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Seacon, do you wish to speak as seconder?
Yes, please. Thank you, Madam Chair. I also support this application. This development is a welcome investment in the railway core precinct, consistent with the city's local structure plan for Queen's Park, particularly with the newly opened Cannington Queen's Park train station, which is just a few meters away from this development. It will bring retail and office activity, supporting local jobs and economic growth. I note the strong facade articulation and the weather protection, as well as the inclusion of solar and EV readiness. These are positive sustainability features. This is the precinct's first of its kind development, and therefore I too support the conditions in setting a high standard for design, amenity, and community benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Does any other member wish to speak for or against the motion? Thank you, Member Lafanti.
I am supportive of the proposal. I am satisfied that it's consistent with the scheme and zoning, as well as the provisions, the LP, a town planning scheme provision 17A, the Canning Lake Guided Development Scheme, as well as being within the railway core precinct of the Queen's Park Structure Plan. I'm comfortable that the discretionary use of office and shops is appropriate for this site, is ideally located, obviously, in close proximity to the railway line and station. The building form, I think, is excellent, orientated to both streets, both in scale and height. It's compatible with its local context. It has really good street visibility from within the building, as well as interface to the street. And from my perspective, I think that the design is considered a landmark building in that particular location. In terms of its layout, internal layout and configuration, it does create an opportunity for a level of flexibility. I know that the plans we have in front of us show fairly large tenancies on the upper level, but the design does create some opportunities for a mixed range of uses and potentially a configuration of those, which provides and responds to the local context and provides lots of opportunities. I support the RA comments and note that they comment that the proposal responds well to the site context, and I'm also comfortable that the vehicle access is consistent with technical requirements and on-site parking is appropriate for the use, and I wholeheartedly support the proposal. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just, through the chair, just like to support the proposal. In my view, it's consistent with the various planning schemes, and it will create a landmark development. It's a very good outcome site. So on that basis, I'll be supporting it.
Thank you. I too will support the recommendation for approval, but I do want to move a few amendments before I speak to the substantive motion. I seek to amend condition 11, which requires removal of redundant crossovers and reinstatement of the verge to add the words prior to occupation at the beginning of the condition. Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Member Lafanti, thank you. The reason being the additional wording makes it very clear when the actions need to be completed and provides the city with a mechanism to ensure compliance with the condition will eliminate any uncertainty into the future. Does any other member wish to speak for or against that amendment? No? All right, let's vote on that amendment. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. And I would like to delete condition 12 that relates to materials, colours and finishes. And I would like to replace it with the condition that was used for the same purpose on a separate City of Canning report on this agenda. The new wording will then read, prior to the submission of a building permit, the schedule of the external materials, finishes and colours shall be submitted to and be approved by the city. The schedule must include details of the type of materials proposed to be used, including their colours and textures. The schedule thereafter must be carried out in full prior to the occupation of the development and maintained for the duration of the development to the satisfaction of the city. Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Thank you, Member Lafanti. I note the city office's explanation that they feel they already have enough detail about this particular issue, and it was put to the design review panel and that the panel was satisfied. I think what's missing for me is the implementation of that requirement and the maintenance of that into the future. I don't think there's any harm in specifying the same condition to ensure consistency between conditions being used on different development applications within the same local government. It's more fulsome and specific in its requirements. And if that schedule has already been provided, then there's no extra work required for the applicant here. It simply means it just gives the city some extra teeth in managing implementation of that into the future. Does any other member wish to speak for or against that amendment? No? All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. And I'd like to amend condition 13, which relates to the finish of the boundary walls, to add the words prior to occupation at the beginning of the condition. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Member Lafanti. The reason is the same as before. The additional wording makes it very clear when the action needs to be completed, provides the city with a mechanism to ensure compliance with the condition in the event there is any uncertainty or dispute about when that needs to occur. Does any member wish to speak for or against that amendment? No? Let's vote on it. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Then lastly, I'd like to amend condition 28 relating to landscaping to include reference to implementation of the plan and the timeframe within which to do so. The condition will then read, prior to the submission of a building permit, an amended landscape plan is to be provided that complies with policy ET 529, verge landscape for the city's approval. Prior to occupation of the development, all landscape areas are to be planted, reticulated and mulched in accordance with the approved landscape plan and thereafter maintained for the duration of the development to the satisfaction of the city. Do I have a seconder for that amendment? Member Lafanti, thank you. The reason for this is the current condition doesn't actually address implementation of the landscape plan. It requires one, but it actually doesn't deal with implementation, and it doesn't specify a time frame within which this needs to occur. So the amended condition ensures more clarity and certainty in this regard, and it aligns more closely with similar conditions the City of Canning has recommended for other development applications. Does any member wish to speak for or against this amendment? No? Let's put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Reverting to the substantive motion, very happy to support the proposal under the Queen's Park Structure Plan. This is a landmark site and is required to have distinctive architectural features. And in my view, the designers have achieved this. It's a great design for the corner and has largely been supported by the city's design review panel. Where the panel has identified areas requiring more attention, these remaining issues have either been responded to in the RA or they've been included as conditions of approval. The proposal meets the objectives of the centre zone, is largely compliant with the primary development controls relating to the precinct, and the RA quite rightly points out that the inclusion of both retail and offices is likely to promote a vibrant and functional commercial environment. So very happy to support a development of this calibre on this site. With that, I will revert to Councillor Kunza as mover. Do you wish to close?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Only to say thank you for your amendments to provide a bit more certainty with regard to the issues that were discussed during debate.
Right, with that, we will vote on the substantive motion as amended. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving to item 4 is Form 2 DAP applications for the City of Canning. There are nil. And item 5, Section 31, SAT reconsiderations, also nil. Part D, other business. Item 1, SAT applications and Supreme Court appeals. SAT applications for all the DAPs are listed on the website, one of which does relate to an application for 5 multiple dwellings at 6 Alexander Road, Dalkeith in the City of Nedlands. With that, I draw the meeting to a close at 10:51 a.m. I thank all members for your attendance as well as the input from the City officers, which is always very useful. And I thank the Secretariat for their assistance as usual. Enjoy the rest of your day.